The giant ship Aurora moved slowly through the dark space around planet Kepler 442b. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the big window looking down at the strange world below. The planet had two suns that made everything look orange and red. But what made this planet special was not the suns. It was the huge maze that covered the ground like a giant puzzle made of shining crystal. Jake had been a ship captain for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this maze. It was bigger than any city on Earth, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that sparkled in the light of the two suns. The maze was so big that it would take days to walk around just the outside of it. "Captain, the first scans are done," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her computer station. Amy was young, but she was the best computer expert on the ship. She had short brown hair and always wore her uniform perfectly clean. "The maze is made from one giant piece of crystal. The walls go down 50 meters into the ground and up 30 meters above the ground. Every path in the maze is exactly 3 meters wide and 5 meters high." Dr. Kevin Barnes walked over to Jake carrying his tablet computer. Kevin was the team's expert on old alien buildings and lost civilizations. He had gray hair and thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger. "Captain, this is the most amazing thing I have ever seen. The walls are completely smooth. There are no marks from tools and no places where pieces were put together. It looks like the whole maze was made in one moment by some kind of magic." Jake nodded and looked back at the planet. He knew that 3 other alien races had tried to solve this maze before humans arrived. The Zentari were famous for being the best navigators in the galaxy. They had brought their most advanced computers and positioning systems. The Vorlak had sent flying robots with the newest scanning technology. The Elysian Collective had tried to map the maze from space using gravity sensors that could see through solid rock. All of them had failed. Their teams had gotten lost in the maze within hours and had to be rescued. "What about the interference?" Jake asked. He had read all the reports from the other expeditions. Every one of them had mentioned that their electronic equipment stopped working inside the maze. "That is the most interesting part," Kevin replied. "The crystal walls create some kind of energy field that makes all electronic navigation systems go crazy. Compasses spin in circles. GPS signals disappear completely. Even our most basic sensors become useless once you go inside the maze. The walls seem to absorb or change electromagnetic radiation in ways that we do not understand." Amy looked up from her computer screen. "Captain, we are getting a message from the Galactic Archaeological Council. They want to know how we are doing." Jake turned to look at his crew. There were 23 people from Earth on this mission. All of them had volunteered to come, even though many people in the galaxy thought this mission was impossible. The other alien races had much better technology than humans. If they could not solve the maze, how could humans do it? "Tell them we are going ahead with the mission," Jake said. "And Amy, tell Chief Petty Officer Lisa Thompson to come to the meeting room. If we are going to solve this mystery, we need our best navigator." Lisa Thompson was different from the other navigators in the galaxy. While other species used computers and electronic systems to find their way, Lisa relied on old human methods. She could find her way using the stars and the sun. She could measure distances by counting her steps. She could make maps by hand that were more accurate than many computer maps. Jake had chosen Lisa for this mission because he believed that sometimes the old ways were better than the new ways. Humans had been exploring and navigating for thousands of years before they had computers. Maybe those old skills would work where high technology had failed. The meeting room was small but comfortable. Jake sat at the head of the table while his officers took their seats around him. Lisa Thompson was the last to arrive. She was a tall woman with blonde hair tied back in a neat ponytail. She wore the same blue uniform as everyone else, but she also carried an old leather bag that contained her navigation tools. "Lisa, I know you have been studying the reports from the other expeditions," Jake said. "What do you think about this maze?" Lisa opened her leather bag and pulled out a small notebook and a pencil. "Captain, I think the other expeditions failed. Because they tried to use technology to solve a problem that was designed to defeat technology. This maze is not just a puzzle, it is a test. And I think it is testing something very specific. What kind of test? Asked Dr. Barnes. A test of basic navigation skills, Lisa replied. Think about it. The maze blocks all electronic equipment. But it cannot change the basic laws of physics. It cannot make your steps shorter or longer. It cannot change the fact that if you walk in a straight line for a certain distance, you will end up at a predictable place? Jake leaned forward in his chair. You think you can map the maze by walking through it? I think I can map it by counting my steps, Lisa said. Every step I take is exactly 30 inches long. I have trained myself to walk the same distance. Every time. If I count my steps and keep track of every turn I make, I can create a map of the maze. The other officers looked at each other with doubt in their eyes. It seemed too simple. How could counting steps succeed where advanced alien technology had failed? Captain, said Amy, the Zentari had quantum computers that could calculate the position of every atom in their bodies. The Vorlak had sensors that could map the inside of a planet. How can counting steps be better than that? Lisa smiled. Because sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. My great-grandfather was a surveyor. He mapped thousands of square miles of land using nothing but a measuring chain and a good sense of direction. He never had a computer, but his maps were so accurate that people still use them today. Jake made his decision. We will try Lisa's approach. But I want the whole team ready to support her. If she gets lost in there, we need to be able to get her out quickly. As the crew prepared for the mission to the planet's surface, none of them could imagine that the solution to the galaxy's greatest mystery would come not from advanced technology, but from the simple human ability to count steps and trust in basic skills. The small shuttle landed softly on the crystal platform that was built at the entrance to the maze. Lisa Thompson was the first person to step out of the shuttle. Her boots made a clicking sound on the strange crystal surface that looked like glass but felt warm under her feet. She wore the standard exploration suit that all the crew members had, but she did not carry any of the electronic navigation tools that other species always used. The temperature is staying at 80 degrees, said Ensign Mike Davis, who was the team's expert on environmental conditions. Mike was a young man with red hair who always checked everything twice to make sure it was safe. The air is good to breathe, but there is a little less oxygen than we have on Earth. Dr. Kevin Barnes got down on his knees next to one of the maze walls. He took off his gloves and touched the crystal surface with his bare hands. This is incredible. The material is not like anything we have in our computers. It feels warm and almost alive, but it is harder than diamond. I have never seen anything like it. Lisa walked toward the maze entrance, which was just a simple opening in the wall that led into darkness. The paths inside the maze curved away so she could not see where they went. She pulled out her small notebook and a regular pencil. These simple tools had made the other team members look at her strangely because everyone else used computers and electronic devices. Lisa, are you really going to try to map this whole thing using just paper? Asked Dr. Rachel Torres, who was the team's expert on alien life forms. Rachel was a smart woman with black hair who usually trusted technology more than old-fashioned methods. Lisa smiled and opened her notebook to a fresh page. Sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways. Rachel, my great-grandfather was a surveyor who mapped half of the state of Montana, using nothing but a compass and a measuring chain and his ability to count. The thing is, this maze might be able to block our electronics, but it cannot change the basic laws of physics. She started walking toward the entrance and began counting under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Her steps were exactly the same size every time. Each step was exactly 30 inches long. This was something she had practiced for years in the Navy until it became as natural as breathing. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his position at the entrance. Lisa, are you sure about this way of doing things? Captain, I have been thinking about this problem ever since we got the mission orders, Lisa replied. Every alien species that has tried this maze has used technology. But humans spent thousands of years finding their way around the world without electronics. We used dead reckoning and celestial navigation, and most importantly, we learned to trust our own senses and abilities. As she walked into the maze, Lisa called back to the team. The walls are exactly 3 meters apart, just like the scans said. That is about 10 feet. Each of my steps covers 30 inches, so 12 steps will equal 1 wall length. I can use that as my basic unit for measuring everything. The team watched as she disappeared around the first corner. They could still hear her voice echoing off the crystal walls as she kept counting. 24, 25, 26, turning right now, 27, 28, 29. Dr. Barnes shook his head in amazement. She's actually doing it. She is mapping the maze using nothing but her footsteps and a pencil and paper. Do not underestimate human cleverness, Doctor, Jake replied. Our species did not reach the stars because we had the best technology. We did it because we learned to adapt and to find solutions that others could not see. From deep inside the maze, Lisa's voice continued to echo back to them. It was steady and confident. 42, 43, 44 dead end. Here so I am. Turning back 45, 46, 47. The crystal walls seemed to make her voice carry further than it should have. Even though she was getting deeper into the maze, the team could still hear her clearly. This was another mystery about the maze that no one understood. Lisa had developed her own system for taking notes as she walked. She used simple symbols that she could draw quickly without stopping. An arrow meant she had turned left or right. A small circle meant she had reached a dead end. A straight line meant she had walked down a long passage. Numbers next to each symbol showed how many steps she had taken. 68, 69, 70, another junction, here 3 passages too. Choose from taking the middle one, 71, 72, 73. Mike Davis was monitoring the communication equipment. Her radio signal is staying strong even though she's getting deeper into the maze. That is strange because the reports from other expeditions said that radio signals got weaker very quickly. Maybe the maze affects different types of technology in different ways, suggested Dr. Torres. Our radios might work better than their navigation computers. Lisa had now been walking for 30 minutes and had covered about half a kilometer inside the maze. Her notebook was already filling up with careful drawings and measurements. She had discovered that the maze was not just a random collection of passages. There seemed to be a pattern to how the walls were arranged. I am starting to see something interesting, Lisa called back to the team. The dead ends are not random. They happen at regular distances. And the passages that connect to other passages follow a kind of sequence. If I am right about this, whoever built this maze was following some kind of mathematical pattern. Jake picked up his radio. What kind of pattern are you seeing, Lisa? It is hard to explain, Captain, but imagine if you were building a maze and you wanted it to be difficult but not impossible to solve. You would not make it completely random because then it would be too hard. But you would not make it too simple either. You would follow rules that make sense but are not obvious at first. Dr. Barnes was taking notes on everything, Lisa was saying. She might be onto something, Captain. Ancient civilizations often used mathematical patterns in their architecture. Maybe this maze follows some kind of algorithm or formula. Lisa's voice came back again. 112, 113, 114, turning left. Now 115, 116. The passages are getting wider here. And the walls, they look different somehow. Different how? Jake asked. There are marks on them, very faint, but they are there. Like symbols or maybe writing. I'm going to stop here for a minute and try to copy some of them into my notebook. The team waited anxiously as Lisa studied the wall markings. They could hear her pencil scratching on paper as she tried to copy the symbols. After a few minutes, she started walking again. Okay, I've copied what I could see. The symbols look like they might be some kind of coordinate system. They are arranged in groups of 3, and they seem to correspond to the layout of the passages. Around here, Lisa, this could be important, said Dr. Barnes. Can you describe the symbols more clearly? They look like combinations of lines and curves. Some of them are straight lines that cross each other. Others are curved like parts of circles, and they are arranged in a very precise way. Nothing looks random or accidental. As Lisa continued deeper into the maze, her confidence grew. She was beginning to understand that this was not just a test of navigation skills. It was something much more important. The maze was trying to teach her something, and she was starting to learn what that lesson might be. 3 hours had passed since Lisa Thompson had entered the maze, and her notebook was now filled with 12 pages of careful drawings and notes. She had created her own system of short words and symbols that let her quickly write down what she saw without stopping her steady walk. Every turn was marked with an arrow, every dead end was marked with a small circle, and every new passage was marked with a line that showed how long it was in steps. "Lisa, what is your position right now, Captain?" Jake Morrison's voice came through the small radio on her belt. "I'm about 800 meters from the entrance, Captain," she replied without breaking her steady walking rhythm. "The maze follows a clear pattern. It is not random at all. The passages are arranged in a spiral shape but with planned gaps and connections that make it look like chaos when you first enter." Dr. Kevin Barnes leaned closer to the radio back at the entrance. "What kind of pattern are you seeing, Lisa?" Lisa stopped at a place where 3 passages met and quickly drew the layout in her notebook. "It is mathematical, Kevin. The dead ends happen at regular distances, and the connecting passages follow a sequence. If I am right, whoever built this maze was following a specific set of rules or formulas. She had discovered something that the expensive scanning equipment of other alien species had completely missed. The maze was not just a random collection of passages designed to confuse people. It was a puzzle that was meant to be solved through careful observation and logical thinking rather than through technology. I'm starting to understand why the other expeditions failed," Lisa continued as she chose the left passage and started walking again. "They were trying to force their way through the problem using their technology, but the maze seems to be designed to confuse electronic systems while still being possible to navigate for someone using basic human abilities." Her walking pace never changed. Step after step, she kept the same 30-inch stride that allowed her to measure distances with remarkable accuracy. The notebook in her hand was getting thick with notes, and each page represented another section of the maze that had been mapped through nothing more than careful observation and counting. 728, 729. 730, another junction here with 3 passages. She called out to the team. Behind her, she left small chalk marks on the walls. This was a backup system in case her paper map somehow failed. But as the hours passed, her confidence was growing. The maze was giving up its secrets to her methodical approach. Lisa had also noticed that the symbols on the walls were becoming more frequent and more complex as she went deeper into the maze. The simple lines and curves she had seen earlier were now combined into intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story. She stopped at each new symbol group and carefully copied them into her notebook. "The wall markings are getting more detailed," she reported to the team. "They are not just random decorations. They seem to be some kind of instruction manual or guidebook. The symbols near the entrance were simple, but these ones are much more complex." Dr. Barnes was fascinated by this discovery. "Can you see any relationship between the symbols and the maze layout?" "Yes, I can," Lisa replied. "The symbols seem to describe the passages around them. When I see a symbol that looks like a spiral, the passage ahead curves in a spiral pattern. When I see symbols that look like straight lines, the passage ahead is straight. It is like the builders left instructions for how to navigate the maze." Jake picked up his radio. "Lisa, if the symbols are instructions, then maybe there is a specific route you are supposed to follow?" "That is exactly what I am thinking, Captain," Lisa said. "But here is the interesting part. The instructions are not written in any language that uses words. They are written in a universal language of shapes and patterns. Anyone from any species could understand them if they just took the time to observe carefully." She had now walked over 1,500 steps and had mapped a significant portion of the maze. Her hand-drawn map was more detailed and accurate than any computer-generated map that the other expeditions had attempted to create. The key was her willingness to move slowly and observe everything carefully. I think I understand the real purpose of this maze now, Lisa said as she approached another complex junction. It is not just a test of navigation skills. It is a teaching tool. The builders wanted to show other species how to navigate using basic principles instead of relying on technology. The radio crackled with excitement from the team at the entrance. "What do you mean, Lisa?" asked Dr. Rachel Torres. "Think about it," Lisa replied. "Every species that has tried this maze has brought their most advanced technology. But technology can fail. Computers can break down. Electronic systems can be jammed or disrupted. But basic skills like counting steps and observing patterns will always work." As she spoke, Lisa came to a passage that was different from all the others. The walls here were covered with symbols that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The passage was also wider than the others and seemed to lead toward the center of the maze. "Captain, something is different here," Lisa called out. "The passage is wider and the walls are covered with glowing symbols. I think I might be getting close to something important." Jake's voice came back immediately. "What kind of symbols are you seeing?" Lisa studied the walls carefully before answering. "They look like star charts, Captain. The symbols show patterns that look like constellations. But they are not constellations from Earth or from any star system I know about." Dr. Barnes was now very excited. "Lisa, you might have found something incredible. Ancient civilizations sometimes use star maps to record important information." "There is more," Lisa continued. "The symbols are not just showing star positions. They are showing connections between the stars, lines that connect one star system to another. It looks like a map of travel routes through space." As Lisa moved deeper into the glowing passage, her notebook filled with copies of the star symbols, she was beginning to realize that the maze was much more than just a navigation test. It was a repository of knowledge left behind by an ancient civilization that had mastered the art of space travel. "I can see a light ahead," Lisa reported. "There is a chamber or room at the end of this passage. The walls are completely covered with the glowing symbols, and there seems to be something in the center of the room." Jake's voice was tense with anticipation. "Lisa, be very careful. We do not know what kind of technology or traps might be in there." "I understand, Captain," Lisa replied. "But I do not think this is a trap. I think this is what the maze was designed to lead people to, a place where the real knowledge is stored." As she approached the chamber at the end of the passage, Lisa knew that she was about to make a discovery that would change everything. The simple act of counting steps and trusting in basic human skills had led her to something that advanced alien technology had never been able to find. Lisa Thompson stepped into the chamber, and her breath caught in her throat. The room was enormous and perfectly circular, with walls that curved up to meet in a dome high above her head. Every surface was covered with the glowing symbols she had been seeing throughout the maze, but here they were so bright that they lit up the entire space like a star-filled sky. At the center of the chamber stood a tall pedestal made of the same crystal material as the maze walls, and on top of it sat a device that looked like a glowing crystal ball. "Captain, I am in the chamber," Lisa said into her radio while looking around in wonder. "This place is incredible. The walls are covered with thousands of symbols, and they all seem to be glowing brighter now that I am here." Jake Morrison's voice came back immediately. "Lisa, what do you see? Describe everything carefully." Lisa walked slowly around the chamber, keeping her notebook ready to record what she saw. "The symbols are definitely star charts, Captain. But they are not just showing the positions of stars. They are showing pathways between star systems, like roads that connect different planets and solar systems." Dr. Kevin Barnes was listening carefully from the entrance to the maze. "Lisa, can you see our solar system anywhere in those charts?" Lisa studied the walls more carefully, looking for familiar patterns. "I think so, Kevin. There is a group of symbols over here that looks like it could be our part of the galaxy. The pattern matches what I know about the stars near Earth." As she moved closer to the central pedestal, the device on top began to glow even brighter. It was about the size of a basketball and seemed to be made of the same material as the walls. But it was perfectly clear like the finest crystal. Inside the crystal ball, lights were moving in patterns that matched the symbols on the walls. "There is a device here," Lisa reported. "It looks like it is responding to my presence. The lights inside are getting brighter and moving faster." Dr. Rachel Torres joined the conversation from orbit. "Lisa, be very careful. We do not know what that device might do if you touch it." Lisa approached the pedestal slowly and carefully. "I do not think it is dangerous, Rachel. The whole maze has been designed to teach rather than to harm. I think this device is the final lesson." She reached out her hand toward the crystal device, and as soon as her fingers touched its surface, the entire chamber transformed. The symbols on the walls began to move and rearrange themselves. The crystal device projected a three-dimensional map into the air around Lisa, showing the galaxy as she had never seen it before. "My God," Lisa whispered into her radio, "Captain, the device is showing me a map of the entire galaxy. But it is not just showing star positions. It is showing travel routes that connect everything together." The holographic display filled the chamber with lines of light that connected star system to star system. Some of the lines were straight, but others curved through space in complex patterns. Each line was marked with symbols that seemed to indicate travel time or distance, or maybe both. Dr. Barnes was amazed by what he was hearing. "Lisa, you have discovered a galactic navigation system. This could revolutionize space travel for every species in the galaxy." Lisa studied the display carefully, comparing it to the hand-drawn map she had made of the maze. "Kevin, I think the maze itself is part of the navigation system. Each section one mapped corresponds to a different part of the galaxy. By learning to navigate the maze step by step, someone learns the basic principles needed to navigate through space." Jake's voice carried a tone of excitement and disbelief. "Are you saying the maze is a training program?" "That is exactly what I am saying, Captain," Lisa replied. "The builders of this maze created a physical representation of space navigation. The symbols on the walls are not just decorations, they are a complete instruction manual for space travel." As Lisa continued to study the holographic display more, details became clear. The travel routes were not random. They followed natural pathways through space that avoided dangerous areas like black holes and radiation fields. The routes also connected to other points that were marked with the same symbols she had seen throughout the maze. "Captain, there are more of these mazes," Lisa said with growing excitement. "The display is showing me the locations of 17 other maze systems. Each one teaches different lessons about navigation and space travel." Dr. Torres was fascinated. "Lisa, what kind of lessons?" "This maze teaches basic navigation using step counting and pattern recognition," Lisa explained. "But the other mazes seem to teach more advanced topics. One appears to focus on celestial navigation using stars. Another seems to teach how to navigate in areas where there are no stars to guide you." The crystal device continued to project new information into the air around Lisa. She saw mathematical formulas that described how to calculate travel times between star systems. She saw diagrams that showed how to use gravity fields to speed up space travel. She saw maps of dangerous areas that should be avoided. "The civilization that built these mazes understood something very important," Lisa said. "They knew that technology can fail, but basic skills and knowledge will always be reliable. They built this teaching system to make sure that other species could learn true navigation skills instead of just relying on computers." Jake was trying to understand the full implications of Lisa's discovery. "Lisa, how old do you think this system is?" Lisa looked at the symbols that were still moving around her. "Based on the star positions shown in these charts, I would guess at least 50,000 years, Captain, maybe much older. The builders of this system disappeared long ago, but they left behind the greatest gift imaginable." Dr. Barnes was taking notes on everything, Lisa reported. "What kind of gift, Lisa?" "The gift of knowledge, Captain," Lisa replied. "They created a university that teaches the most important skills in the galaxy: navigation without technology, problem solving using basic principles, The ability to find your way no matter where you are or what equipment you have. As the holographic display continued to show new information, Lisa realized that her simple method of counting steps had unlocked secrets that had been hidden for thousands of years. The maze had tested her not because it wanted to keep people out, but because it wanted to make sure that only people with the right mindset could access its knowledge. "Captain, I think I understand now why all the other expeditions failed," Lisa said. "They brought their most advanced technology, but the maze was not testing technology. It was testing whether a species had learned the basic skills that are needed for true exploration and discovery. The ancient builders had created the perfect test. Only someone who was willing to trust in simple methods and basic skills could pass through the maze and reach the chamber of knowledge." Lisa had succeeded where others failed, not because she was smarter or stronger, but because she had remembered the most important lesson of all: sometimes the oldest ways are the best ways. Lisa Thompson stood in the glowing chamber for another hour, studying every detail of the holographic display and copying the most important symbols into her notebook. The crystal device seemed to understand that she needed time to learn, and it kept the display active while she worked. When she finally felt ready to leave the chamber, she carefully lifted the crystal device from its pedestal. To her surprise, it was much lighter than it looked, and it continued to glow even when she moved it. "Captain, I am ready to come back," Lisa said into her radio. "And I am bringing the crystal device with me. It seems to be portable, and it is still showing the star maps." Jake Morrison's voice came back with relief and excitement. "That is excellent news, Lisa. Do you think you can find your way back using your map?" Lisa looked at her notebook, which was now completely filled with drawings and notes. "Absolutely, Captain. I know exactly where I am and exactly how to get back. The route I took to get here is mapped down to every single step." The journey back through the maze took Lisa 3 hours, but she never hesitated or took a wrong turn. Her hand-drawn map was so accurate that she could follow it perfectly, even though she was now walking in the opposite direction. Every landmark she had noted on the way and appeared exactly where she expected it to be. When Lisa finally emerged from the maze entrance, the entire team was waiting for her. She was carrying the glowing crystal device in her arms, and her notebook was thick with pages of careful drawings and measurements. Captain Jake Morrison was the first to greet her. "Lisa, you have done something incredible," Jake said with a smile. "You have solved a mystery that has puzzled the galaxy for decades." Dr. Kevin Barnes immediately began examining the crystal device. "Lisa, this is amazing. The device is still projecting holographic displays, and the symbols are moving in patterns that seem to correspond to the notes in your notebook." Lisa sat down on a rock near the maze entrance and opened her notebook to show the team what she had discovered. "The maze is not just a puzzle," she explained. "It is a school. The ancient civilization that built it wanted to teach other species the basic skills needed for space navigation." Dr. Rachel Torres was fascinated by the implications. "Lisa, what kind of skills are you talking about?" "The ability to observe carefully," Lisa replied. "The ability to measure distances accurately. The ability to recognize patterns and follow logical sequences. Most importantly, the ability to trust your own senses instead of relying completely on technology." Over the next several days, the team studied the crystal device and the information in Lisa's notebook. They discovered that the device could interface with their ship's computers, but only when they used basic input methods. Complex electronic systems caused the device to shut down, but simple digital interfaces worked perfectly. Dr. Barnes was able to decode many of the symbols using Lisa's notes as a guide. "The star maps show hyperspace routes that could reduce travel time between star systems by up to 70%, he reported. "But the routes can only be navigated using the principles that Lisa learned in the maze." The crystal device revealed the locations of 17 other maze systems scattered across the galaxy. Each maze was designed to teach different aspects of navigation and exploration. Some focused on celestial navigation using natural astronomical phenomena. Others taught how to navigate in areas of space where electronic equipment failed. The ancient builders created a complete educational system. Lisa explained to the team. They knew that true explorers needed to understand basic principles, not just push buttons on computers. Captain Morrison made the decision to visit several of the other maze systems before returning to Earth. At each location, Lisa used her step-counting method to map the mazes and unlock their secrets. The team discovered lessons about asteroid field navigation, solar wind prediction, and gravitational field mapping. The crystal devices from each maze could be combined to create a comprehensive navigation system that worked independently of electronic technology. The system used natural phenomena like star positions, magnetic fields, and gravitational effects to determine location and plot courses through space when the Aurora finally returned to Earth. 6 months later, Lisa Thompson had become the most famous navigator in human history. Her notebook filled with hand-drawn maps and step counts was studied by navigation experts from dozens of species. The techniques she had developed were taught in space academies throughout the galaxy. The discovery on Kepler 442b changed space travel forever. The ancient hyperspace routes were open to ships from all species, and travel times between distant worlds were reduced dramatically. But more importantly, the galaxy learned a valuable lesson about the importance of basic skills and human ingenuity. Lisa was promoted to commander and put in charge of training new navigators in the ancient techniques. She established the Human Navigation Academy, where students from many different species came to learn step counting, pattern recognition, and dead reckoning navigation. Technology is wonderful, Lisa would tell her students, but technology can fail. Your brain and your senses and your ability to observe and count and think logically will never fail you. These are the tools that true explorers have always used. The maze on Kepler 442b became known throughout the galaxy as the Navigators. Maze and Lisa's achievement was celebrated as proof that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most elegant. Her notebook with its careful drawings and step counts was placed in the Galactic Museum as an example of human determination and practical thinking. Years later, when other humans explored the remaining maze systems, they always carried simple notebooks and pencils along with their advanced equipment. They had learned that the combination of high technology and basic skills made them better explorers than either approach alone. Lisa Thompson continued to serve as a navigator for the rest of her career. She explored distant galaxies and uncharted regions of space, always counting her steps and trusting in the skills that had made her famous. Her legacy lived on in the thousands of navigators she trained who carried her methods to every corner of the known universe. The ancient builders of the mazes had succeeded in their goal. They had taught the galaxy that true navigation was not about having the best computers or the most advanced sensors. It was about understanding your environment and trusting in your own abilities. Lisa Thompson had proven that a human being with a notebook and a pencil could accomplish things that the most sophisticated alien technology could not. And in doing so, she had opened the galaxy to a new age of exploration and discovery, based on the oldest and most reliable navigation tool of all, the human mind.